No laundry piles, remember.
Okay, I'm back. I'm live with the 5-minute podcast. And I missed a week last week, which was sad, but it wasn't as sad as the fact that nobody noticed. So that was disappointing. So I don't know if you heard that voice, but I have a special guest this week. And it is Chris Thiessen.
Hey!
So Chris, let's go over by the tree, because I thought that we should shoot this in front of the tree.
All right.
Christmas tree. And Chris thought maybe it was a bit early.
It is kind of early.
He said maybe we should give...
You got to wait till after Grey Cup weekend. That's how I feel.
Okay, I think that's fair.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so quick introduction on where this all began. So when I first did the very first 5-minute podcast, Chris, I think you texted me or maybe even called me and left a message and said, hey, good idea. I'll join you as a guest one day.
Well, it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
I did threaten litigation and other stuff for copying my old program.
Ouch. Okay.
But I wasn't serious.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So
what's your topic today?
So that leads me to how the format of this one's going to go. Chris said, look, in the past, I had a podcast called 6 Minutes and 60 Seconds with Chris.
Yeah, 6 minutes and 60 seconds.
Because you didn't want to call it...
7 minutes in heaven. I didn't want to create expectations in the community.
Right. So 6 minutes and 60 seconds. So you took credit for originating this short form live podcast. So whatever, you did it first. I'm fine. I'm fine with giving you credit.
Okay, well, invitations is the most sincere form of flattery.
So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna turn today's 5-minute podcast into a
11-minute and 60-second podcast.
A 12-minute podcast. So or 11-minute 60-second. So here's what I want. So I said to Chris when he said, "Oh, hey, I'd like to be a guest," I said, "Okay, let's go for lunch and let's brainstorm some ideas." And we actually just got together to talk about catch-up stuff mostly. But then I said, he goes, "Well, what do you have for some ideas?" I said, "Which show do you want to be on?" He said, "Well, tell me some of the ideas of stuff that you want to shoot." So I ran through my notes, my 5-minute podcast notes. And one of the topics is the one we're going to talk about today, which is the question, what advice would you give to your 10-year-ago self?
Ooh.
So you can go back 10 years. So that's, in my case, I would be talking to 20-year-old.
Yeah, so 10 years ago, I guess I just got on council.
10 years.
10 years ago, yeah.
So the reason I think this is such a good question, and we're going to take the whole 11 minutes and 60 seconds, 12 minutes. The reason I think it's such a good question is because sometimes we know that. We say, oh, the things that I've learned, like, I've learned so much this last year. I've learned so much through this experience, through this job or whatever else. But you actually don't even take the advice. Sometimes you know the advice, but you don't take the advice. And I got thinking about this, and I'll go through mine, and you go through yours, and whatever order we decide is fine. But I got thinking about it, and I thought, I was cautious to say what mine was, because I don't know if I've taken my advice yet. Like, I don't know if the advice I would give to 10-year younger me is advice that I'm taking today.
No, what was that advice?
So, well, I'll get to that. So here we are. Do you know what yours is? Because as soon as I talked to you about this, you said you knew what yours is going to be.
Yeah, except in the original, it was not 10 years ago, Chris. It was to your younger self. So I was thinking like younger adult Chris, not necessarily just fresh on council Chris. But, this works because now my answer's changed, so you don't know what you're going to get. I don't know what I'm going to get.
Okay, well, you can go either way, because I threw this at you, and maybe the parameters were too tight. So here's what I thought. When I first got thinking about this, I was like, my advice was really specific. So, for example, I would say that we should have never sold our house that we had in Mission Estates, which is a very specific thing, right? It's like saying I should never have sold that Toyota Corolla. But the reason I say that is because that house, I always thought was too big. I thought that house was too big because it had 5 bedrooms, and I thought, what are we paying for such a big house for? Why don't we get into something that's smaller, that suits us better? We have this guest room that we only use once a year when we have family come over, and we have to clean it all year. What a waste. Well, fast forward 2, 3, 4 years into living in the house we're in now, it's just too small. The space is too small.
You made this house. You
built
it yourself.
I know. And it's too small. So that was it. Like, when I got thinking about what advice would I give to actually me, that wasn't like relevant I don't know. We should have had a stand for this. This is
Do you
hard.
want me to do
Yeah,
this?
you
Here,
hold it. You
here,
hold it.
I'll hold it. It's your turn now.
Okay, thanks. Good.
Oh,
Yeah, I got my shiny head.
Yeah, there you go. My
But
shiny head.
the advice was just too specific. Like, I don't like that angle. Chris.
Okay, sorry.
Better.
This? Better?
Yeah, that's better. That's better. You know, because advice to you may not be, you know, universal advice to everyone. So I had a few examples. I was like, you know, I would have made a career change sooner. I would have got out of home building and got into the job I'm in now sooner. Again, you know, is that helpful to anybody out there? I guess if someone's thinking of changing a career, but not necessarily. So here's my advice, since I'm using up some of Chris's time here.
It doesn't matter. We got 11 minutes and 60 seconds.
I think that my advice would be, and this is super generic. I went from super specific to almost too generic.
Okay.
It's just don't worry. Just don't worry.
Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna Matata.
That's my favorite saying.
And I think what I mean by that is you know, don't worry about circumstances. Don't worry about what people think about you. Don't worry about, you know, how you look. Don't worry about how you come across. And I'm not saying be completely arrogant and oblivious to how you may come across. Mm-hmm. But the reason I thought about this is because I thought, you know, I've talked about this in previous podcasts, that the stuff that keeps you from success and wellness and progress is like these tapes that play in your head that are all based on scenarios that will never exist. So that was mine. I thought if I was to go back 10 years, I sat down with Derek, I would say, look, don't worry about it. I know you're wondering about should you stay in this house, should you change this job, should you do people think you're losing your hair, do people think your vehicle's not new enough, are you interesting, did that come across the right way? You have the capacity to operate in your flow if you can just let go of all those things that worry you.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think those are words to live by. I think I might have said that to my younger self too. I think you're pretty much bang on. So I guess for me, 10 years ago, what would I have said to myself? Besides Hakuna Matata, don't worry about it.
Yes, because you would have said that, right?
Yeah, I would have said that. I definitely would have said that. I would have said, hey, don't worry about it. Yeah, people told me that lots in my first year on council. In fact, I was like, I don't think I'm asking enough questions.
Right.
And they were like, don't worry about it. And then I was like, I don't think people really care about housing. They're like, you know what? You care. That's all that matters. Right. And so that's going to be my advice, I guess, is similar to the don't worry. But my advice to people, or I guess to myself 10 years ago, is yeah, you can. Yes, you can. So for me, in my situation, obviously I was elected. I had things I wanted to do. I had people who didn't necessarily agree with me, some on council. That's okay. That's what council's all about. We come to an agreement sooner or later, right? We meet in the middle on some things. Housing was an important one. But I think my biggest concern back then was, well, did I get elected and is my voice moot now, right? Because I gotta network this with 8 other people, and obviously they don't think that edible landscaping's cool. They don't think that housing's a need that municipalities need to take care of. It's not that they didn't think that they were good ideas. It's just they didn't think that we should be serving those functions. And they came around. And so for me, that first year was like, well, how am I going to get this? I promised people I was going to do stuff. So very much in that vein, if people telling me, don't worry about it, Chris, I've always been a believer that as human beings, if we put our mind to anything, we can create anything in this world. That's how things happen in this world, big or small. So when we worry about it, we actually set up blocks in our own life that prevent us from achieving our goals, which are achievable. As long as we put in the effort, the willpower, and the belief in ourselves that what we're doing is important, if not to the world, but to ourselves. And so, yeah, you can. So, I mean, we get fed fears all day long, every day, right? And I think a lot of those fears that we are fed around us from society tell us that, hey, maybe you shouldn't do this. Maybe you should hold back. Maybe you should stay normal. I guess I'm here to say that, you know what, we shouldn't worry about those things that are sometimes out of our control, especially the things that are out of our control. What we can deal with right now is what's in our control, and that's us. So when we believe in ourselves, everything's possible. Everything's possible. And when we believe in that, then we nurture that belief in other people too. Not that we believe in them, but we do, but also that they can believe in themselves too, because now you are an example of somebody who doesn't worry about things and let the world knock you down when it wants to. And you're someone who believes in yourself, who said, one day I want to live in a smaller house, and I want to design it myself, and I want to go against all the city standards, and I want to come to committee meeting like 3 times and fight for this.
Did that happen?
3 times, yeah.
Did that really happen?
Yeah, well, but it was good, and you did it, so yeah, you can. So.
Okay, so that's good. That becomes a bit cyclical. Okay, so here's my question for you.
Okay.
Hopefully I'm not getting too shaky. It's just I don't know if my arm's strong.
Do you want me to hold it again?
Okay, so have you faced a time where those truisms, I guess, if those are what we've come up with.
I guess so.
Did you face a time when they didn't follow the rules? So for example, if I said, look, don't worry about it, don't sweat it.
Yeah, I'm sweating.
You know, like don't get upset about it. Don't like, because here's the reason why I came to the conclusion of my life advice to 10 year younger me, is because people are sick now. People are sick, and much of the sickness is related to stress.
Yeah.
And we stress about things that don't matter. And if you stress about things that don't matter and you shorten your life and you make yourself sick, it was completely within your control. You didn't have to exercise 5 times a week. You didn't have to change your whole diet. You could be healthier if you just didn't stress.
Yeah.
So my question then is have you faced times, like, what I'm saying, I guess, is put the theory to the test. Is there times where you've said to yourself, you can do it, and actually you realize, nope, you can't? Or is there a time that, either of us have said, oh, you know what, don't worry about it. And then in the end we look like idiots because we're like, actually, that's something you really should have worried about.
Yeah, well, I think life is full of all those opportunities for examples. I mean, I could talk about some housing projects, I could talk about my marriage, when I think, let's talk, no, I don't want to.
Well, we have 0 minutes left. But
shoot.
But I'm just...
Dude, how many seconds do we have left?
You've
got 11 minutes and 60 seconds.
We have 0 seconds.
Okay.
Left. But I'm putting that question out to people watching, because I don't want to just get on here and sort of throw out, these generic ideas. Like, I actually think that when you experience life and you look back and you say, how could I have done it better? If I had a redo, if I had a 10-year reset or a 20-year reset, if I could go back and reset it, or at the very least go back with the information I have, what is the most valuable information I have? And I think that if that's advice you would give, would the advice stand the test of time? And I think we only know based on how much have we adopted it. Well, you've obviously adopted it.
How much have we grown through it? Right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes when we fight things, we don't grow. We don't get those opportunities to grow as people. So I don't want to fight that.
Okay, well,
we're almost at the end, eh?
We're out of time.
Overtime.
Yeah. This looked good here, though. It looked Christmassy.
You
have a ton of hair. I have no hair.
Yeah. Am I going bald?
You might be going bald.
Are you going bald?
There's no question about it with me.
I thought you just razor shaved for fun.
Oh, it's not fun. It's
so
nothing fun.
The life lesson of today's 5-minute podcast really is, don't worry about it, young Derek. Hakuna Matata. And yes, you can. Whatever you want to create in this world, you possibly can create it. As long as you don't stress about it and give yourself all that undue worry, and you move forward with the proper free will and oomph that life needs sometimes to get things across the finish lines.
I like that. I stole my life advice from Pumbaa, and you stole yours from Obama. I guess it goes to show which of us are getting advice from where.
I got advice from Obama?
Yes, you can. That was his.
That's right. Yes, you can. Yeah, Thanks, Barack. You did something good for me.
Thanks for tuning in. I apologize again for missing last week, but we doubled it up this week. And if you're interested in being a guest on the 5-Minute Podcast, you can talk to my booking agent, Chris.
Yeah, I'll take your calls. I'll send you the best ones.
Okay, guys, have an awesome week. Chris has got to get back to council for important budget deliberations.
Well, it's just council meeting tonight. Tomorrow is the big budget.
Tomorrow's the budget.
Yeah. Well, be well, everybody, and remember, believe in yourselves, and don't worry about the stuff, especially the small stuff. It's all going to come together in the end. Yeah. Is that it? Are we ending?
We're done.
Yeah.